Prabu Sena, also known as Bratasenawa, was born in the early 8th century as a noble of high birth with connections to both the Galuh and Sunda royal houses. His exact birthplace remains debated among historians, but most agree it was within the sacred lands of Galuh near the upper Sitandui River region, and birds singing unusual melodies, interpreted by royal priests as omens of a great ruler. The name Sena carries connotations of army or warrior in Sanskrit, indicating strength, leadership, and martial valor. His alternate name, Bratasenawa, is more esoteric and symbolic. Brata means vow or discipline, and Senawa suggests a connection to Sena but with spiritual depth. His name suggests the disciplined warrior or one who rules through sacred vows, hinting at his dual identity as a ruler of both worldly and spiritual domains. Sena was adopted as a son-in-law by Rahiyang Mandiminyak, marrying the princess of Galuh, which solidified his claim to the throne. Through this marriage, Sena not only gained legitimacy, but also inherited the delicate responsibility of upholding the fragile harmony between dynastic lines within Galuh. His early education under the guidance of Brahmins and court advisors shaped him into a leader versed in sastra, scriptures, warfare, and statecraft. His upbringing was influenced heavily by the teachings of the Siwapaksa, a spiritual path that merged state duties with deep devotion to Shiva. This faith infused his rule with a spiritual seriousness, and his path would later serve as a blueprint for future monarchs of Galuh. Before ascending the throne, Sena was known for his calm demeanor and sharp judgment. Despite growing tensions in the court due to unresolved succession claims, he managed to gain broad support from both the spiritual and military factions of the kingdom, thanks to his noble character and political foresight. As a son-in-law of Rahiyang Mandiminyak and a noble of Tarumanagara descent, Prabu Sena occupied a unique place in the dynastic web of early Sundanese history. His marriage into the royal family made him both heir and potential unifier of different royal bloodlines. Brought more than legitimacy, it carried danger. After the death of Mandiminyak in 709 CE, his ascension to the throne was contested by factions within the court, especially those loyal to other sons of Retikandayun. His claim sparked a dynastic conflict that marked the early years of Sena's reign. Court advisors and military commanders were divided in loyalty. It took both diplomacy and a show of power for Sena to stabilize his rule. Prabu Sena never resorted to bloody purges. His reign was one of restrained strength, often choosing negotiations over war. Sena upheld the principles of Dharma Raja. He reinstated sacred festivals and issued new edicts to protect farmlands and commoners. These acts strengthened his popularity among the people, even as noble factions debated his right to rule. Once his rule was secured, Prabu Sena turned his attention to governing. His vision was to continue the spiritual monarchy of his predecessors while modernizing aspects of administration. He instituted several reforms in taxation, irrigation management, and the protection of forest lands considered sacred by local communities. Under his leadership, Galuh saw relative peace and prosperity. Trade routes between the Galuh heartland and the northern coast, present-day Cirebon and Karawang, were expanded. These routes connected Galuh to Indian and Chinese traders who brought goods, ideas, and new technologies. Sena's court became a cultural hub with visiting monks, scholars, and artisans enriching its atmosphere. One of his most remarkable projects was the restoration of mandala sites, sacred compounds for meditation and education. He patronized spiritual teachers and sponsored the copying of scriptures onto lontar leaves. His court promoted Shaivism while also respecting local animist traditions, resulting in a uniquely Sundanese spiritual culture. Sena was also noted for creating the Pustaka Raja Dharma, an early royal chronicle said to record the laws of kingship, spiritual teachings, and genealogy. Though the original is lost to time, echoes of its teachings survive in later Sundanese manuscripts and oral traditions. In foreign affairs, Sena maintained peaceful relations with neighboring polities, such as the remnants of Tarumanagara and early Srivijayan entities in Sumatra. His strategic diplomacy ensured Galuh's sovereignty, while subtly expanding its influence through marriage alliances and trade agreements. Prabu Sena was believed to possess supernatural powers, inherited through the royal line and cultivated through strict ascetic practices. Stories from the Kawi, oral songs, and Pantun, poetic epics, speak of his ability to speak with nature spirits, control storms, and foresee threats to the kingdom through dreams and omens. His pusaka, sacred heirlooms, were central to these beliefs. Among the most famous was the Keris Kalawijaya, said to glow in the presence of betrayal and capable of striking down enemies from afar when wielded by a king of pure heart. Another relic was the Sangyang Tapakamas, golden sandals used during sacred rituals to connect the king's soul with the gods. These sacred objects were not merely symbols, they were believed to grant divine legitimacy and protect the realm from calamity. Sena's deep reverence for these items shaped how he ruled, always conscious of the divine gaze upon him. To reinforce this sacred image, Sena often held Upakara Raja, royal rituals performed during eclipses or harvest moons. These ceremonies blended court protocol with ancient Sundanese spirituality, involving trance dances, offerings, and firewalks performed by court shamans. His personal life was marked by celibacy after the death of his wife, a move interpreted as both mourning and spiritual commitment. This earned him the reverence of religious circles, who saw him not only as a ruler but a living Rishi, sage. As the political tension simmered and age caught up with him, Prabu Sena began to withdraw from the active administration of Galuh. He formally abdicated the throne in favor of Rahiyang Mandiminyak, either by necessity or as a gesture of reconciliation. Some sources suggest that Sena was pressured to step down due to internal plots, while others believe he chose a spiritual path over politics. He retreated to a sacred forest hermitage near the modern-day Kiamis region, where he lived as an ascetic. His hermitage became a place of pilgrimage. His death is shrouded in mystery. Local tradition says he entered a state of moksha, spiritual liberation, and vanished into a shaft of light during a meditation ritual near Mount Sawal. Others claim he was secretly assassinated by those who feared his spiritual influence might return to shake the throne. Despite the unclear circumstances, his legacy was honored with shrines and menhirs, sacred stones, carved with symbols of the sun and serpent, two emblems of divine kingship. These are still found near ancient sites in Galuh territory. Sena's spiritual texts and teachings lived on, passed from hermits to village elders, and later chronicled in palm leaf manuscripts known as Naskah Kabuyutan. Today, the legacy of Prabu Sena is embedded in West Java's cultural memory. Towns like Kiamis Banjar and Tasikmalaya hold oral traditions and folklore tracing their roots back to his era. Sacred sites such as Situ Lengkong Panjalu and Gunung Sawal are often linked with his spiritual retreat and final days. His reign, though short and turbulent, laid the foundation for the eventual integration of Galuh and Sunda, setting the stage for a more unified Sundanese identity. His emphasis on dharma and sacred kingship shaped how later kings viewed their role, not merely as rulers, but as guardians of spiritual order. In modern Sundanese literature and Wayangolic puppet plays, Prabu Sena appears as a wise but tragic king, caught between his noble ideals and the realities of politics. His life continues to inspire artists, poets, and historians seeking to reconnect with ancient values. Academic institutions in Java have begun re-examining his contributions to early constitutional law, temple restoration, and spiritual diplomacy, crediting him with helping transition the Sundanese world from post-Tarumanagara fragmentation to unified cultural maturity. Thus, Prabu Sena, Bratasenawa, is remembered not only as a king, but as a sacred bridge between past dynasties and future greatness. His spiritual power, legacy of peaceful governance, and complex royal struggle remain central to the ancient soul of Galuh.